Happy Wine Wednesday. Let me get my little seahorse ready here. All right. Happy Wine Wednesday from me. Holly, what are you sipping on?
It's just water tonight.
I
I had
forgot mine.
something good earlier though. Um I found a recipe for this Easter bunny punch and I add a little vodka to it.
Mm,
So it's just like pink lemonade with 7 Up. And then
yes.
you add vodka to it and you can put like whipped cream and all the fancy stuff on top if you like. I did that for Easter, but today I had leftover pink lemonade. So after I finished cleaning the Seahorse tanks, I had some of that with vodka and it was good.
Nice, nice. And I'm still trying to do my New Year's resolution where I only drink wine on Wine Wednesday, but so far, we won't talk about that. Anyways, Ray forgot his water. Sophie, I assume you're on water tonight.
I didn't bring anything this week, actually.
Yes, I have no drink.
Nothing needed. All right. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Chris, Carrie. Ooh, so excited to have you. Want to discuss lots of stuff from last week with you. But, well, it's Wine Wednesday. Happy week, everyone. Hope your seahorses are doing well and your tanks are swimmingly fantastic. Bottom line is, I apologize for last week. Everybody kind of called off, and then I got Ray on here, and Ray and I were talking, and he started talking politics, and I was like, oh no, this ain't no. So me and Ray got to know each other really well last week, but I didn't want to take it live. So apologies for not being here last week, but we're here this week. If you missed the week before, we had an amazing guest. Go check it out. And we will have more guests and more topics coming up. Tonight, it is open chat. So if you have any questions about saltwater, any kind of saltwater tank, seahorses, etc., that's what we're here for. We're here for the community. We're here to get together on Wednesdays and chat. But we do have some things to talk about. I know that Miss Sophie has a topic, and as does Miss Holly. And we, of course, have Ray. I'm like, we have Ray. Can you tell we talked politics last week? No. All right. Anyways, just kidding. Just kidding. It was an amazing conversation. But let's start off with Sophie. Actually, we always start off with Holly. Let's start off with Sophie. What's going on with you? Tell us what you want to talk about this week.
Okay, so for everyone, obviously you guys know, but so I have not had fry anymore. I had 3 batches and I did not have any more fry. And this was, well, I think it was mostly because I had like a salinity scare where my salinity generally, like specific gravity, it stays at 1.023. It was at 1.029. So it went really, really high. I do not know what happened. I guess potentially, like, I don't even know because my water changes. I always make sure that the water is where it should be. Something might have happened then, but it got really high. I obviously brought it down, like,
Real quick,
slowly.
sorry
Yeah?
to interrupt, but is it possible, because this has happened to me personally, so no judgment, but is it possible that because you've been so busy that the evaporation, salinity, is that possible?
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
maybe. Right.
No, I
It
have been really busy because I have a lot of activities.
Yes.
So I have been quite busy. Honestly, it's not even that bad that I don't have fry right now because I'm like dance competition season. So I don't have a ton of time.
Right.
Yeah. So that happened. I brought the salinity down, but they've been flirting a little bit, but I don't have fry and Fitz is not pregnant.
Okay, so with the last batch of fry, how old did they get?
They got a little older than some of them got to like a week and a half.
Okay.
That was kind of the oldest. But most of them died still just around that 1 week mark.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ray, what are your thoughts on that?
Been there, done that.
Mhm.
Well, and I don't mean to question, but I do. Well, obviously I am questioning the method that you guys are using, those small jars. And I've done it. I've raised fry in small tanks, and I've just, like completely put them in another one and done like the tank transfer method basically with fry, or did serious water changes. And we've talked to Sophie. She started, I think you started using peroxide for the Artemia. So she just started that. And so maybe it's just a timing thing and things will come along. But would you, Ray, if you started over today, if you were 20 years younger and you wanted to start over and you decided that you wanted to raise Seahorse fry again, would you still use the jar method?
Sure. It took me a long time before it succeeded, but then once I did, then the jars were no problem after that. So that means it wasn't the jar that was the problem. It was either something I was not doing or something I was doing, or it was because those reed-eye that I had at the time were not producing a fry that was viable enough.
Yes.
And it may be that because I didn't know things that I know now, I wasn't as concerned about uh, getting the health of the adults
Yeah.
uh, up to a high level. I don't think I even knew back in those times that a straight-sided body or concave body didn't know that was detrimental.
Gotcha.
Like we're talking a lot of years ago.
Sure. And what he's saying, guys, is if you're trying to breed and your fry aren't doing well, take a look at the parents. If they're not old enough, that means maybe, as in Sophie's case, the adults that are having the fry just haven't gotten to the point where they figured it out themselves, right? And then also, if they're older, seahorses, your parents, then you might want to look at feeding. Meaning Ray was saying concave, or what's the other word?
Straight
Concave,
side, well, you want them convex.
convex. Thank you.
Yeah.
So convex means they look like little fatties, and
Like a
cons,
football shape, like this, like round and in the
concave,
middle.
sorry, yes, Holly, absolutely. And concave means if you look at them, they're kind of sunk in at the sides, and
Mhm.
if you look at them on the side, I have a video where Ray actually called me out and said those seahorses are so concave. And it was literally after my mom, whatever, doesn't matter. He was right. And I do have a video also out there of, a seahorse female seahorse that had just done an egg transfer. And right after they do that egg transfer, they will be, they've lost a lot of their mass. So they will be a little bit concave. But typically it has to do with feeding. Ray's absolutely right. I think Sophie has little fatties. So I don't think that's the issue. I do think that we're going to talk about possibly her salinity scare causing some problems, and also just age of seahorses and etc. But Holly, were you saying something else? I feel like I cut you off. No?
Oh, no, but I will say that always in my experience, the 1 week marker was always when I lost the most fry out of a batch. Out
Really?
of every batch, even the ones where I had more, like my later batches, I had so many, that I raised like 23 of them, I want to say, made it out of that batch. So I had them in a 10-gallon tank, but still there was like over 100, and I lost most of them after right around the 1 week part. And then after that, I didn't lose very many.
See,
But
I really,
every single batch, it was within right about that week. And
that
I
is,
think it's might be just its nature calling out the ones that weren't fit enough to survive. Like you were saying, like they're not viable fry, like the parents were young,
yes,
under a year old. So, and I don't know enough to tell or have the
right,
experience to look at fry and say, okay, that one looks good. It's going to make it. That one's not. So they
right.
could have had issues, and that's just the survival point that they can make it with those issues. I don't know, but that's kind of my theory, because I'd always lose the most within that time period. And if I could get them past, the first week and a half or so, then I'd lose some here and there, but not like a lot at once like that.
Well, no, it's interesting to me because I would say that I had, in my case, most of the times until I was raising fry on top of fry, when I first started out and my seahorses were having fry, they were larger, older adults. So maybe that's the difference. But in my case, I absolutely disagree with the hard time with fry, because in my case, I had no problem when they were babies. I had
Mhm.
those little guys, as long as they came brine shrimp and kept the water clean, they were great. It was the weaning onto frozen food. That was when I lost them in mass numbers. So that's pretty interesting. But again, we don't I can't give you an answer. It could be because my fry were older, or my
Yeah.
fry have done it so many times. I don't know, but I'm glad I didn't have to experience them not surviving after a week, because again, you don't really know why.
Yeah.
Um,
And I only had the one seahorse producing fry.
right,
I had one male that had fry, so I haven't had any experience with any other seahorses other than him. So
right.
I can't tell other than, what happened to me. But that was always when I would lose the most, is that the first,
We see,
yeah,
yeah,
within
never.
the first week. And if I could get him, I lost very few actually weaning them onto frozen. Like if I could get them to about 3 weeks old to where they were starting to eat frozen, from that point, pretty much everybody would survive. I had a few odd ones. Like, I don't know if you remember, I had one I called Baby Christmas that was my
Oh, yeah,
only survivor. He lived to be 3 months old. He was trained to eat frozen, but he never grew. He stayed teeny his whole life long until he finally passed.
yeah,
And I had him with the big seahorses because he was the only one. And it was so cute. He'd sit and eat with them and had his own little personality. But I cannot tell you what was wrong with him, but he never grew. He stayed
right,
tiny. And so he had something wrong with him, obviously, but
right.
who knows?
Well, and I do think that most of the problems, and guys, if you're here and you're just wanting to start a seahorse tank, ask the question, because we'll move on to your questions for
Yes.
sure. If you don't ask questions, we're going to talk about what's going on with us. But I would say, I believe, just my personal opinion, that 90% of what goes on with your fry has to do with the parents. I mean, that's the bottom line. If they have a genetic thing that they're passing on, or if they have aren't getting nutritional needs met,
Mhm.
or whatever. I just think that I know very many Chris Carey out there, right? I know a lot of commercial and high end breeders, and their key thing is really pumping up the breeders, meaning the parents, right? They give them their own tanks with their own water, with special foods, with live foods, with enriched foods, and they are just puffing these seahorses up so that when they breed, their fry are healthier, right? So the average hobbyist can't do that, right? But I think we can use tricks like possibly live feeds, possibly enrichment, things like that, if things aren't going well with the fry. And we can also look at the raising of the fry. And Ray, you mentioned that, what did you mention?
I don't know. When did I mention?
Comment.
Yeah.
I was leading into your comment about the tubs versus jars.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the jars, once I moved to the tubs, my percentage of successes definitely went up. The jars just weren't capable of producing the yields that the tubs were. But then again, even in tubs, I never got close to Dan's results. Like for me, high 50s and low 60s
Yeah.
was a good batch. But
Sure.
Dan would be up in the 90s.
Well, and
Yeah,
back
but
to yeah,
I
go ahead.
The
would
tubs
say
weren't
just
the
that
size of Dan's either.
I would say that I'm trying to keep it like small scale. Like I'm just doing this kind of for fun.
Right.
When I get older, I might decide to go into something kind of like Demo
You
has.
will be a biologist, y'all. Okay, go ahead. No.
I've thought about being a marine biologist. I've thought of going that, and I might end up doing that. But for now, I'm trying to keep it on the smaller side, a little bit more easy to have, and I only have this amount of space. I don't
Right.
have.
Right.
So like,
So
even
go
if
ahead.
I'm just happy with like, some numbers surviving. They don't need to. It doesn't need to be huge. Just like some.
Yeah, if you have a
So
few
I'm
that
gonna
make it, that'd be sweet.
I'm gonna say something that might be very opinionated, but the thing is that if you talk to commercial breeders, the big wigs, they're gonna tell you that they absolutely only keep the hardy. And what I'm saying in smaller terms is that Holly and I are very guilty of trying to save every single fry.
That poor
I
little thing, yeah. Like my one that lived for 3 months at only this big.
Yes, right. But it is, if you want to study as you want to do, Sophie, and you want to kind of learn as you go and really figure it out, one of the keys is choosing the healthiest fry and rolling with them instead of trying to keep them all. Because if you have them all in this jar, and the ones that wouldn't survive anyways are taking food from the ones that would, and become healthy, it just get what I'm saying? I don't want to go. Okay. All right. And
Well, maybe you could do kind of both and separate them and have a group that you think are the best, healthiest ones, and in a different jar, keep another group of the ones that you think they might or might not make it. And that way, the ones that are really healthy will have their best chance.
That's
but you're still
probably
giving
what I
the
would
other ones a
do,
chance.
because I would feel guilty. Like
I would too.
rid of the rest of
right, right, right.
I
Right.
couldn't do that either.
Well, yeah, do separate jars then. And I would say that anyone, at least from my stance, talking to someone like Sophie, anybody out there, if you're afraid to ask a question on Wine Wednesday or of this community, don't ever be afraid of being judged. We care about seahorses in the ocean and in our tanks. We care about the aquarium industry, and we care about trying to help everyone. But the bottom line is, there are things you can do to progress that might not be as pretty as we want them to be, but it is what it is. And Sophie, I do want to talk a little bit about the salinity. Let's talk about the salinity for a minute. Like, what happened? Why do you think that might play a part in anything?
Well, so I think it probably happened because I was too busy and I wasn't checking things properly.
Well, no, I wasn't even trying to call you out. I was saying, like, what literally happened? Did the salinity?
How did it affect the seahorses? Is that what
Yeah.
you're asking?
Well, and so you noticed that something happened, and you noticed that the salinity was up, down, other. Tell us that.
It was way up. Like it was okay. So I measure in specific gravity. So I measure my general salinity is 1.023, and it rose to 1.029. Now I've researched with like corals. I've seen that like when you get to 1.030, so just like there are a lot of zeros, okay, and there are a lot of points. But if you just get like a teeny bit higher, that's like really bad for the corals. So I would assume the same for the seahorses. I think I'm kind of blaming it on the fact that he's not having any fry anymore on the salinity, because I think it just causes like stress. And I don't know how long it was that high for. It could have been like a few days. I just know the seahorse. I don't know if like have you guys ever seen like I don't know how hardy seahorses are, how far you can push the salinity.
Okay, so Ray, you had a comment on that real quick.
Yeah, seahorses can survive so much of a range. It's not even funny. Like,
Yeah.
They're found in estuaries where the sewage is being dumped out, fresh water being dumped out, rivers are emptying into the areas where they have there, so it often goes down. But then again, if you've got an area where the seahorses get up and they get caught in a tide pool that just sitting there evaporating until maybe the tide comes back in again and they're able to wash out. But I'm not sure just how high it gets, but I know that when I was doing the reefing, there was conversations about the salinity getting so high, and some of the other like crabs and other things in there. They were talking about how they survived, but I know for a fact that people have picked up seahorses out of tide pools.
Yeah,
and, so if they can survive that, like I can't see that it's going to do them any damage. That and especially if it slowly raises, it's not a problem for them. If you bring the salinity up, it's just like bringing pH up too fast. It's harmful for them. But if you bring it down specific gravity, like you can bring it down lower, like you can give them a freshwater dip, and that's fine. But if your specific gravity got down to 20 and you want to get it back up, say to seawater rate level of 2.6, then bring it up slowly.
So I agree with 90% of what you said, but my problem with when people say, and Chris Carey's probably like glaring daggers at me right now, but my problem with people saying, well, they can handle these crazy situations in the ocean, but our tanks are not the ocean. We have a small box, right? So if they can handle crazy salinity in the ocean, maybe it's because where we're testing the salinity is what it is, but because there's so much water, coming in and out, that maybe it's not really like I don't know how to describe it. Like that's not really the salinity because there's so much water, right? In our tank, that is the salinity, and it has changed, and it is higher or lower. And I do think
it probably depends on how fast. I think how fast it changed is probably more concerning than how high did it get to. I know I've seen mine get to 0.26 and 2.7.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's funny, that was brought up because we've had warmer weather here lately. And I had to remind myself to start checking my salinity because it runs the same pretty much all winter long, until the evaporation starts, when the warmer weather comes. And then I have to pay attention because sometimes I do have to add fresh water instead of salt water. But all winter long, I don't have that problem. I'm only adding salt water.
Right.
But once it starts to get into, where it's getting closer to 75, 80 degrees, I'm going to start getting evaporation.
Yes.
So
So-
I've seen it get high, but it didn't really affect anything that I could see in my seahorses. It was probably because it was so gradual.
Right.
And then I caught it and then I lowered it gradually. So they were just doing their thing, probably adjusting to it as it went.
That was Sophie's case, and she had to step away for just a second.
Mhm.
She'll be right back. But in her case, it was she didn't even realize it happened. And then and she was too busy. So I feel like it was fast.
Mhm.
And then, it wasn't this quick. It was like a long thing, it seems to me. Is that right, Sophie?
Yeah.
Okay. And Zen said deviations from their ideal range, especially to specific gravity of 1.029, can cause stress on the seahorse's osmotic balance, potentially leading to problems with their gills and overall health. There you go.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, it's really hard to worry about everything and try to get everything right and think things are terrible if something happens, but they're not, right? It's fixable, it's whatever. But
They look fine to me. They're just doing their thing. I think it might affect them in the short term, but I'm sure they're going to be fine.
It was your fry though, right, Sophie?
Yeah. So I haven't seen anything wrong with my actual seahorses, just that they haven't been giving me fry.
Right.
Can I
So
comment?
yes.
Over the years, I've had seahorses that seem to never want to stop producing fry. I've had others that produce fry for a while, never ever produced them again. And I've had a lot that produce fry on and off.
Okay, well, Ray,
Sandy
we
was
hope
on
that
it.
is not the case, and my seahorses did not just give me 3 batches and then never again. Well, cross your fingers that that's not the case.
I had that misfortune, but
only time will tell.
But with me, I always had so many seahorses that so it didn't matter if some of them weren't producing. I had some that never ever produced.
Right. Well, and Sophie's like me. I'm sitting here like, hey guys, I can't even handle getting to Wine Wednesday, but I'm hoping my seahorses give me fry because I could them. And Sophie's like, I can't get to Wine Wednesday, but you know what? I'm gonna get fry. Right. So maybe our seahorse.
It's not honestly that horrible that I don't have fry right now.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of works out for the best for now. But I still want them.
Yes, and you will have them.
And he may just be taking a break. Sandy used to do that. He'd have a couple batches back to back, and then it'd be a couple months, and then he'd start again. So you don't know, you'll just have to wait and see what he does.
You guys all say that, but I never experienced that. My seahorses had fry every month. Bam, 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 until they stopped.
But now you're not having any. So I think, everything is possible. Every situation is possible with them, I think.
No, absolutely.
I mean, none of mine are having fry. Like I've said, I only had the one seahorse that had fry, so I can't really compare.
Sure.
Because I haven't had that many seahorses
And back to the salinity thing. Zen said, yeah, I guess a few days wouldn't do long-term damage to an adult, but maybe not great for babies. And that's what I was kind of thinking is, well, no, I am thinking of the main tank too. Just, I think that any change, right? Like if you have a temperature swing or if you have a salinity, crash or, raise or whatnot, or anything major changes that in any way either stresses the seahorse or maybe it doesn't even stress them because obviously Sophie had to step away for a second, but if you watch her background, her seahorses seem absolutely happy and fine, right? They're swimming around, they're go lucky, but I mean they might just be like, this isn't the right time to breed because of whatever the stressor is. So, as Holly was saying, I think that every tank can have whatever stressors. And yeah, no, I agree. So I don't have an answer, but I would say in Sophie's case, don't freak out. They give it a minute. Let's see if they have another batch as things calm down and stay regular. Seahorses do absolutely want and love no change, right? When it stays the same and their feeding's the same and the salinity is the same. I mean, like you give them a treat, they love that, but I'm just saying anything bad that comes in there, they don't like that and it stresses them out. So, Ray, you're looking perplexed. What do you got to say?
No, I'm nothing else.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just the comments that I was typing there.
Okay, well, tell us because the people watching can't see it.
Oh, well, I don't even remember all that I put. Maybe I'll have to.
All right, you
I
said
can tell you what he said. He said the most in his experience had periodic rest periods,
okay.
Yeah.
and it gives their bodies time to rebuild their health.
Gotcha.
It's very stressful to see horses producing fry, and it takes a lot out of them. So unless you're able to keep their bodies up, I suspect it may be nature that just sort of takes over and makes them stop and gives them a rest period in order to build up that immune capability. Well, immune isn't what I want, but that
We
they got
get
to
it.
build up their body so it's healthy enough again to produce the fry properly.
And
So
I
they're
thought my
so
seahorses were spoiled. Look at Sophie feeding her
literally
seahorse.
constantly.
I
Oh.
forgot that I didn't feed
Wait,
them.
guys, hey, time out. We're all
That's
talking.
so cute.
Time out. We're all talking at the same time. So I was gonna say, so they're like us humans, where they're constantly trying to do this, that, and the other, and they can't handle it, and it comes crashing down. Holly, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying it's so adorable. Sophie's feeding her seahorse, and I said, and I thought mine were spoiled. She's feeding that individual seahorse with an eyedropper or something.
I didn't feed them tonight, so I have to feed them.
Let's make her big.
That's what we call target feeding.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Right.
what I
It's
found most
adorable.
efficient.
So efficient.
Yeah, you don't
what?
have a lot of waste that way. Look at the other ones trying to take the other
Yep.
ones.
So Sophie, do you have to feed them both that way or just one?
Both of them. I mean, I probably don't need to, but like I do it
You
anyway.
know,
so
look
cute.
at them. They're like,
Snick.
oh, I love it.
Chris Carey says conditioning.
And
That's the rest period gets them
Conditioning,
back.
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
so Sophie, real quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see him doing it, but I have a video where I was target feeding, which is what you're doing. My Barborians, and No, Barbari. Why am I saying Barbarians?
Barbarians.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Barbarians.
That's okay. I call them Barbary.
Okay, Barbary. All right. And I used to have to target feed them because once you start, you can't stop because then they're spoiled. But I was gonna say, yours seem to attack like Erectus. Well, yours are Erectus, but I'm saying they
Now they're attached to
attack.
it.
Look it.
You
They
pull it
attack
out of the tank on there.
the feeding tube, don't they?
Pardon?
They love it.
Yeah.
Do they attack
Yeah.
your feeding tube?
Yes, they do. Yeah, there you go.
They'll literally start snicking what's
They
not
snick
out
it
of it.
too. Mine will do that sometimes too. Although now that they're older, they've learned that they cannot get it through the turkey baster.
Yeah.
But they still give it a snick sometimes just for good measure.
And Sophie, I know that you are a scientific mind and that you are trying to do things a certain way, but I really kind of want to see a video of you just throwing food in now. I want to see if they chase it.
This is so cute. Look
I
at
can
how
try
she's
it now,
trying
but then I would
drag
have
it
to like
away.
take it out.
You guys are both talking at the same time, but these are active, healthy seahorses that are like, you're not giving me enough. Give me more. But what were you saying, Sophie, first?
I could do it now, but then I would have to take it out.
Yeah, well. I know. It's
Wait, here, hold on.
It's work. There you go. Let's see if they attack it.
Yeah.
But now they've eaten, right? So
Yeah.
that's not really fair because now they've. But look,
They're about done. Yeah, they're spoiled. They want it out of that.
but
I think the funniest thing, I think the little girl keeps trying to drag the male away. She's like, get away from my food. She keeps grabbing him and pulling him away.
I love it. Very healthy seahorses that are doing so well.
And I also have like my pistol shrimp down here. He's in here.
Aw.
My goby. But
You just like squirt food down there for them?
yeah, that's how they eat it. They won't like. It just goes in their cave and they eat it.
Look at the seahorses. They're like, is there more? Give it. Give it. Give it. Oh, they're so cute.
Thank you.
I have to target feed my goby like that too. That is the only way my goby will eat. If it falls on the ground, he will not eat it.
Why do you think that
He's
is?
so high maintenance.
I have the goby, and then I also have like the hermit crabs and the conch that are around here cleaning it up.
Aw.
So, Holly, for
cool.
you first, why do you think that your goby won't eat unless you target feed?
I never figured it out, but he'd come and eat. Like when I was feeding the seahorses, he wanted to get it out of the turkey baster. If it falls on the ground, he won't pick it up. And that's another reason I say I don't think he really needs sand, because he doesn't sand sift.
Gotcha.
He sits in his little cave, and I don't know, maybe it's because he's the only one of him. So he thinks he's a seahorse, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, he's never been one to eat food other than if it's falling through the water. You know, if it's falling through the water, he'll come and try to get it. But if it makes it to the ground, he won't eat it off the ground. And my seahorses are the same way. They'll eat out of a dish, but if it falls on the ground, they sit there and wait for me to put it back in the dish for them.
See, I want Ray on this because
but my other seahorses in the other tank will eat off the ground. I don't even give them dishes. So I think it's just what they get used to.
That's it, Holly. Because like Sophie's seahorses here, you know, I've seen them in this video right now eating off the ground, but here she is picking up food off the ground and giving it back to him or taking it out.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that was giving it to my crab.
She's feeding the other fish.
I know. I know. And Sophie, I'm just giving you a hard time. But because we've all done it. But if you spoil them, you can't expect them to then target feed. I have videos of my Barbari, however you want to say it, that they would not eat off the ground, period, from the moment I got them. And they were so picky. And the female especially would only eat mice that had eyeballs. Like it
Yeah.
had to look like a shrimp. Whereas I also have videos of my erectus where I would just throw scattered crap in the, not crap,
Uh-huh.
all mysis, but pieces in the tank, and they would just chase the crap out of it and eat it. So nothing wrong with what you're doing. No judgment here. But it does take time.
I like that this gives me time to like watch them. That's when I know that they have a problem or something, because I can watch them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And it also makes cleanup easier. Like in the tank where I feed them and they eat in their dish, it's much easier to siphon. I only have to siphon out what's in the dish or around the dish. It's just easier for me to see, easier to take care of them. Yeah.
Sophie, quick
In
question.
the other tank, it goes everywhere.
Yeah. See, but like in my broadcast feeding tanks, they ate it all, and I had cleanup crew. But Sophie, real quick, how much did you just feed?
That is about. It's a little more than half. No, it's a little less than half of like a frozen cube.
Okay.
Like the frozen cubes, I cut them in half, and then they eat around like 3 halves a day. So a cube and a half. Sometimes, yeah, around that each day.
So you feed about half a cube to 2 seahorses and a goby, and what else is in the tank?
There's a few hermit crabs, but I don't generally feed the hermit crabs.
Right.
They find their own. Yeah.
Right. So 2 seahorses and a goby, and you're feeding half a cube 3 times a day.
No, I feed them 4 times a day.
Okay.
But yeah, I spread out the 3 halves.
1.5 cubes over 4 feedings.
So probably not.
If I run out of it, if I run out of a cube for the second one, I'll bring in the second half of the cube, and then I'll leave the food for the next feeding. Like I put it in the fridge, and I'll wait for the next feeding, and then I'll bring the little shot glass back with the food.
Okay, so question. If you're keeping it in the fridge, and I'm just keeping you big because your tank's so amazing and I want to watch it. But if you're keeping it in the fridge, when you take your shot glass to go feed the seahorses, are you rinsing the mysis?
I have never rinsed the mysis. I have always just used the cubes. I know that at one point I think Ray told me to do that, but I've never really I don't have the time to do that much, and it just it seems like an extra step, and the amount of feeding that I try to do during a day, if I were to add extra steps to I wouldn't do it. So, and I've never found any problem with not rinsing them.
So but I wonder if it is a problem and you just don't know it, right? Have a good night. Sorry, not you guys. Sorry, significant other going to work. But and
the unfortunate part is the packing fluids.
I'm not saying you're
wrong. A lot
of
phosphates.
Okay, what, Ray?
A lot of phosphates in the packing fluids.
Yeah.
So I would say there's no judgment on this channel. If Sophie, if you've decided you don't want to rinse your food, then don't rinse your food and see how it goes. But I would say for anybody out there who starts up, I would absolutely advise rinsing the food, because all that brown crap that's in with the food is not food. right? You just want the shrimp.
I've
So-
never, like, when I get the cubes, I don't really see much extra, because when you say the brown crap that comes with the food, like, I don't see
Like
that.
it's sealed in it. Like, you know how it's kind of like a brownish color,
It shouldn't be a brownish
You-
color, Ollie.
you know?
I never
Well,
noticed
like,
that either.
sort of.
Like
I don't really see the
tannish.
brownish color on them.
Okay,
I've
but
never seen it.
so okay, all right, let's back up. So everyone watching, talking, if you're looking at a package of frozen mysis cubes, it's in a cube, it's frozen. What's around the shrimp? Because there's something.
Fluids.
Yeah, it's
I guess
a
so, yeah.
frozen liquid. Yeah, it's like a tannish color kinda compared to the
It
shrimp.
shouldn't be, Holly. It shouldn't be tannish.
Well, I've never had any mysis shrimp that's pure white other than the shrimp itself. I've never had a package of mysis shrimp that's white.
Right. So you're
They're
saying
always colored. They're like a tannish, beige or whatever. But when you rinse it, then the shrimp themselves are a white.
right.
So the easiest, there's actually it's not, it doesn't take that much time. I don't use cubes. I break them off a big pack, but I break a piece off and I put it in a strainer under cold water in the kitchen sink. And then I use a little cup of salt water to pour from the back side of the strainer into the container, like your shot glass that you're going to feed with.
Yeah.
So that way it's rinsed, but it only takes like a minute under the sink to do it. Just put your little piece under cold water, turn on the cold water and it only takes like a seconds to get it rinsed
Well,
off.
and to be extremely clear, I've always said, and I always will say, if what you're doing is working, then keep doing it. Right? I mean, Sophie, I understand if you just don't have the time, but it is just a few seconds to a minute, and I do feel like it does make a difference in if you start seeing problems. That might be something you might want to look into, because there are, if you're not rinsing that food, then you're adding other stuff to the tank, is the bottom
It's
line.
going to contribute over time
Honest-
to an increase in dissolved organics.
Yes.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of I didn't rinse them because I didn't know. But then I learned about it, but then I didn't do it, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And then, yeah, I just didn't do it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest we start, but again, what's
The
working
main
for
thing
you?
is she just watches for a sign of a problem.
Well, yeah, but Ray, like, we go back to prevention, pound a cure, blah blah blah. I can't think of the quote. But
Yeah.
bottom line is, waiting for a problem. All right, the tank lights went off. Let's make Sophie small now, so we don't have to.
I think in Sophie's case also, because of the way she's feeding, it's not going to be the same as like someone
Yeah.
like me that broadcast feeds.
Absolutely.
That would be more severe. But in
Right.
her case, if she wants to keep on doing it, then just be aware of it, and any sign of any problem, and make sure you maybe consider doing the straining at that time, but also upgrade your water change protocols.
No, great point, Ray, because exactly. If you're throwing food and letting it fly, then you need it to be clean. Whereas if she's just feeding a piece at a time, all that stuff really isn't getting into, she's not dumping it into the tank. She's taking a piece out at a time and feeding the seahorses. So totally agree. Totally agree. Then Ginger said the seahorses in that tank bitched on you, Holly, and Holly and told you.
Yeah, they're like, if you just sit there and look hungry, she'll feed you with a turkey baster.
Yep. And Chris did say conditioning, and Ray, you mentioned it. What is that about?
Sorry?
What's conditioning?
Well, we were talking before about the rest period. It gives them time to condition up to produce the fry again.
See, I disagree. If somebody says to me, sorry, let me make my camera light again. If someone says to me, I'm conditioning my seahorses, that's something Dan said to me a lot and taught me about. And conditioning seahorses means that you have a pair that you, and Chris Carey, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but conditioning to me is you found a pair that breed well, that are healthy. They're your biggest seahorses. They're very healthy. That you want them to be even healthier because they're already producing fry and you want them to produce the best fry. And so you condition them, right? So if you're talking commercial breeder, they're putting them in separate isolated tanks, this pair, and giving them special enriched foods and making sure their water is so freaking pristine that you can't touch it and all that. For us hobbyists, that means, at least in my case, when Dan explained conditioning to me, what it meant was if I found a pair that was breeding really well, I would put them in a separate tank, not as pristine and conditioned, but I would condition them for breeding, meaning I would feed them high quality foods, enriched foods. I would just, like really concentrate on making those twos tank really promotive for breeding, whether that mean lighting, heating, all that stuff. So conditioning to me means something different. But
Well, in my case, I look at it as the seahorse that stops breeding. Maybe it's possibly because nature is telling it that it needs to rebuild. And so it's going to self-condition by not producing for a while and allowing the body to condition itself again.
no, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that conditioning can mean different things because it can be a self-induced thing by the seahorse. It can also be something that you're doing as a breeder, hobbyist, or commercial to really make sure that that seahorse is everything that it needs, DHA, all that good stuff, and make sure that it's really healthy so that it can pass that on to the fry. That's all I was trying to say. But did
If
you
I
raise your
get sick, I
What?
maybe stop eating or something in the meantime, but then after I'm getting better, then my body conditions itself before I can get before my body's able to do things that I used to do before I got sick. So it has to, I do part of it in controlling what I'm eating and taking in, but still the body has to condition itself.
Sure. Again, Ray, I'm just saying that if you're talking to a commercial breeder, when they say conditioning, they're talking about really separating a pair of seahorses and treating them like kings and queens, right? Like really taking care of them, really. And in your example about us humans, I agree. But if I don't take my antacid pill before I drink my coffee, I'm in trouble. So if they need DHA in order to breed, I know that wasn't a very good example, but my point is, there's just different definitions. I don't know.
I
Good
agree.
nutrition, clean water, just getting them in shape again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it does matter if you're a hobbyist breeder, you can't do as many things. But when you find a pair that's breeding really well, you can condition them, is all I'm trying to say. But Sophie, what else is going on? Like, where do you stand right now? Where do you think, now that you've controlled the salinity problem, where are you at?
I don't know. I'm just kind of in my normal routine. There's not much. I'm just kind of waiting and watching, and every day that I see them flirting, I get really excited, but then I know that he's not pregnant. Yeah, I'm just kind of back in my usual routine of just like doing things, and yeah, nothing special.
Well, and you said, and I agree because I've said this multiple times, maybe they know that they shouldn't have fry right now because we can't take care of them, right? But when you're done with your things that you're doing, I won't mention them, but when you're done with your activities that you're doing for yourself and you do have more free time, I really would like to talk more about, seeing, because you're a scientist at heart, and I love that you experiment, and I love to like kind of see if, providing maybe a live food treat or using enrichment or whatnot, if they all of a sudden started breeding again. I would love to see that. Or we will see if they just start breeding because you've gotten the tank back under control and etc. I mean, like I remember Dan telling me there were so many tricks. It isn't just about, providing clean water and making sure, like if you're conditioning breeders, then giving them, making sure they have everything they need. It's also lighting.
I'd say light and temperature probably play into it too. Light period.
Things, and Chris Carey is saying stuff. Let's see. Conditioning is about increasing the health and condition of the animals so they can produce better and more fry, both quality and quantity. So we're all right, is bottom line. And then
That's a shocker.
Oh, okay. Let me not say that live. But anyways, and again, guys, for anybody who's just trying to set up a seahorse tank, you don't really have to worry about any of this. We've talked repeatedly about you can provide more nutrition, you can provide better conditions for your seahorse tank by doing certain things. But you can keep very healthy, active, well-kept seahorses by just feeding frozen mysis and just having the average seahorse tank, which we can help you with. We need to do a new tank series. But anyways, yeah, we're asking Chris Carey if he's works the shrimp poles. But anyways, Sophie, I wouldn't worry too much. Like,
Yeah. No, honestly, what sucks the most is that I was supposed to go back to my elementary school and I was supposed to do a presentation there, and I was going to bring some fry with me, but I can't do that if I don't have any fry.
Well, maybe just talk about the experience and what you experienced raising them. You can show the parents and maybe pictures if you have.
I definitely will.
Of them?
Do a slideshow. Show the fry.
No. I was going to do, because like the fry, there's only so much I can show. It's just like a jar with fry in it.
Right.
So I was going to do like a slideshow, and it's like partially about marine conservation as well, not only seahorses. And then I was going to, show them the fry. And then anyways, we had other activities. I'm still probably going to do it, but depends on the fry situation. So I'm hoping that'll get started again. And
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. And this is at a school?
Yes, this is at my elementary school.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I have my librarian. My librarian, she's really nice. Well, she was my librarian. But she was really excited when I emailed her and asked her if that would be something I could do.
That's awesome.
That's cool. And kids love seahorses. Sometimes I'll have a friend over that has, little kids, and I let them feed the seahorses and hold the turkey baster for them, and they love it.
Well, and I do have videos out there, guys. Seahorse Whisperer Jr. and many videos my kids have done with seahorses with lights and coloring and feeding and all that stuff. So look it up on the channel. But I was going to say, it's really cool what you're doing. And I have people, everyday people, like I told the people at work the other day, because they wanted me third shift called off, and I was like, I can't do it. I got Wine Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
And they said, what's Wine Wednesday? And I was telling them, and they were like, you keep seahorses? Like, really? Oh my
Yeah.
God. In your house?
Yeah,
And
what's funny is when they say they're real.
yeah,
Some people don't even know they're a real animal. I had somebody in Home Depot once. I was buying the chains, the yellow chains at Home Depot. And the lady that was cutting the lengths of chain for me, I was telling her what they were for. And she's like, I always thought they were a mythological creature. She goes, I didn't know that they were a real thing.
Yes.
I have a lot of
Showed her
people who just
pictures
like
on my
invite.
phone.
I have a lot of friends who just like invite themselves over to see the seahorses because
Yes.
I bet,
this is
yeah.
not something they'll see again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's really a cool thing. And again, for the Zen Gingers out there, if you set up properly, we sit here and we discuss fry and all the detailed stuff and sometimes the bad stuff and whatever. But like keeping a seahorse tank, I personally seriously would say it's easier than keeping a reef tank. I absolutely would say that. Coral is harder than seahorses.
Mhm.
That's my personal opinion, but I mean it. I feel like I did more for my coral as far as water quality, chemistry, blah 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 blah, than I did. I mean, I
I
barely.
will agree with that too, since you
Yeah.
see, I have no more coral, but the seahorses survived. The
Well,
coral
and
did not.
I wouldn't want to put it like that,
But that's the truth. That's
but
what
I just
happened to me.
remember, and I appreciate that you tell the truth, Holly. I love you. But
Survival of the fittest around
amen.
here.
And they are stronger than we think. And like
Yes, they are.
in my reef tank, I was always worried about pH and calcium and
Mhm.
all this other stuff for the coral.
Mhm.
Whereas with seahorses, you just got to keep clean water.
Yeah,
That's
the
it.
biggest thing. That's the biggest
For my
thing.
corals, I only keep the really easy ones like
Right.
Kenya trees,
Mhm.
zoas, like corals that won't care that much because I can't also deal with having like really hard corals to take care of.
And that's one thing that I when I really got into seahorses, when I first started and I was having fry like crazy and I had multiple species, one of the things I really wanted to do badly, and I'm telling you guys this in case anybody watches and wants to do it, I wanted to set up an NPS tank. If you don't know what that means, it's non-photosynthetic coral. So it's those really pretty gorgonians that don't need light, but they need fed, right? And so herein lies the problem. And I really wanted to do it, and I investigated it, and I did not do it because it's kind of like
Polluting the water, wouldn't it be kind of?
right,
For this,
right.
because they eat such fine particles of food that you're adding organics.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's it. It's
I
to
could see
take
that.
care of the NPS coral or gorgonians or whatever. Like sun coral and that kind of thing. And then the beautiful, really pretty colored gorgonians. Oh my God, they're so pretty. But they need fed. They have polyps that eat, literally mouths and eat. And they don't take light and they're not photosynthetic. So obviously non-photosynthetic. But my point is, because they have these really amazing. I'm not going to remember the name now. I did have one in my reef tank, but I wanted them in a seahorse tank. But they're like spiraling gorgonian or not gorgonians. I'm not going to remember, but they're like a spiraling polyped, not coral, but more like a gorgonian, and they're amazing, and they're very hard to find, and you don't want to kill them if you get them, but you don't want to. What I'm saying is, you don't want to put them in a seahorse tank because they require so much work and feeding and light, or not light, but feeding and time and quality and blah 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 that it ends up, as Holly was saying, creating organics and hurting the seahorses, right? So it is much better if you do want a natural looking tank. I love my macros. You know, I have tanks that are very sterile and plastic. I have tanks that are very, you know, not plastic, and I don't do sand, but I have gorgonians and I have macros and rock and that kind of stuff. And my bottom line is you want in a seahorse tank for the seahorse to be the priority.
Mm-hmm.
Ray got bored.
Yeah, I think I lost my I killed a xenia. I was told you can't kill a xenia, but I think what it is after talking to my friend Teresa, the pet store I introduced you to, she thinks it's because the temperatures I keep the
I have
seahorse
one, and it's
at
doing really well.
are too cold for them. Is
But what temperature do you keep? So
I don't know. I haven't checked it in a while. I keep 72.
so Holly's tanks are much lower, correct?
They're probably they get close to that around that in summer, but generally I run under 70, like about
So
68,
again, guys,
69.
The reason we talk about temperature with seahorses, and you guys are making a great point. If you look at, can I keep seahorses with other fish or other coral? Temperature is a huge thing, because the lower the temperature you keep in a seahorse tank, the less bacterial problems you're going to have. Think about it logically. Lower temperature bacteria cannot multiply as quickly. Higher temperature, they go crazy. But
Well, I want to ask Ray real quick because I see you used to sell xenia, so you know quite a bit about xenia, sounds like. What do they not like? Are they sensitive to low temperatures, or what would
I've
make
never,
a xenia not
I
happy?
never found anything that they didn't like. For me,
I know they're so yeah.
it was the most, what's the word for it? They propagated faster than anything I've ever had. And the simple way to do it is you had your xenia on the rock, and all you would do is put some rubble ahead of it, and they climb onto the rubble, and then you take the rubble off and you take it in and sell it.
Mhm.
So
We had
wait,
a saltwater store here in London that he used to take just piles and piles of it from me. And
Big Al.
normally, no, this was Incredible Aquarium, it was called back then. But anyway, there was so much of it sold, and then I had people that just I knew, and word would get around, and people would come to the house and buy it too. But I sold
oh, go ahead.
the next highest or fastest propagating was the cold corals.
Oh yeah.
That and then the leathers, like those made me a hell of a pile of money, and yet the colt and the leathers, I guess I didn't see anything really attractive in them. The xenia looked nice when you've got a lot of it, but it was basically a weed. And but the thing is, when weed makes money like that,
Right. So
Right.
Holly, that's what I wanted to ask though, is because I did a lot of exenias, right? And there's different species. So there's the green, or there's exenia.
Mine was brown.
So there's pink exenia that's like a weed, like Ray said, that will just expand and never dies and does everything. Then there's really cool exenia, like the pulsing exenia.
That's what I had. I had a pulsing xenia, and I killed it.
Right. But they don't.
And it kept getting knocked off the rock by a crab. One of my crabs used to push it off the rock. So I was wondering if that had something to do with it.
Absolutely. And they don't ship well. Like I tried pulsing exenia, and it was growing fabulously in my girlfriend's tank, and she sent me some. Wouldn't take off because it didn't like the shipping, and it just never thrived because it was damaged or whatever in shipping. They don't like to be shipped, and they're very so again, it depends on the species. You can say Xenia and everybody's gonna be
Yeah, I was always
God,
told
that
that grows like a weed. It's really easy, but no, mine. I
grows.
got it at that pet store in Chico, and it was doing great there. I got a little piece. It was only like this big because I was told it would spread everywhere, and
Right.
it pulsed maybe the first few days that I had it.
And then it was
And
done.
then it just started looking sadder and sadder, and my big crab kept knocking it off the rock.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It just wasn't, I couldn't make it happy.
So
I killed it.
pulsing Xenia, again, guys, for anybody out there who's gonna try it, it doesn't like to be shipped. It doesn't like to be traveled. It doesn't like to be
Manhandled
what's
by
the word where
crabs,
you cut it and make it something else?
propagated,
Craig.
propagating.
Dragged. Yes, thank you. And I think flow has a lot to do with it too when it comes to
Mhm.
Xenia,
Mhm.
especially pulsing, because they like flow. They
Mhm.
want to be, pulsing flow. So if
See,
you
I've
don't,
had mine for a while and it's doing great, but it just like doesn't grow. Like it's doing great on the one spot. It's grown.
Where it is, it's not
Yeah,
spread.
like it's grown maybe a tiny bit, but no, it doesn't
How
really
long-
grow that much.
how long has the tank been set up, Sophie?
The tank has been set up for longer than a year and a half. I think that one's around a year old.
How long has the Xenia been in the tank?
Yeah, like around a year.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It just doesn't grow. I don't know. It's doing great, but it's just not growing.
Okay, so let's experiment.
Yeah. I've had a lot more luck with Kenya trees. Those ones grow like weeds everywhere. I have the really big one, like the one that you'll see here.
Mm-hmm.
That one's really big. It grows really fast. And then it dropped some of its branches and they're growing around here. And I have one right here.
Yep.
So
with the Xenia though, or Xenia, how do you say it? Xenia?
Xenia.
Yes.
I spelled it with a Z, but it's actually an X.
It's an XENIA, yeah.
But I want you to give it more flow. Or even frag a little piece and put it in a separate little whatever.
I don't have enough, I don't have enough mass to frag it.
Okay, all right. Well, then either move it or provide flow where it's at.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
I never ever fragged them. All I did was put rubble and let it crawl up on it because their instinct is to climb.
Yes.
That's
well, mine isn't growing, so I can't let it grow.
See, the thing that with yours, Sophie, you have it in a Seahorse tank with cooler water.
That's true too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that can have an effect on it. I'm just guessing. I don't know for a fact, but I never had Xenia in any tank that cool.
So I know for a fact it's the damn flow. Provide it flow. No.
Okay.
I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. But I would be curious to see.
I can put it, I just don't know where to put it because it's on this tiny little rock here. So I can move it wherever I want to move it. It's just, I don't know where to move it in my tank. That would.
And you don't have any power heads in the tank, right?
I do. It's up here. This big shadow back here.
Okay, so you can get little suction cups. With a rock, let me think. You can get little suction cups where you could do like a little, sounds weird, but like a little shelf and suction the shelf right in front of the power head and put that rock on the shelf. I know it sounds weird and it wouldn't be pretty, but I want to know if it takes off like crazy in the flow. Because
that makes a difference.
I might also be able to. I have a hitch back there. I might be able to put it on top of the hitch because the flow comes around and then around the rock and down to the front.
And I get it, but I'm saying they flow, they like to be
on them.
Just like Seahorse. my seahorses would literally swim into the flow, get thrown across the tank, and swim back into the flow, and literally sleep attached to covered wave makers with their head in the flow, going blah 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 blah, blah because they just, it feels good, And I think Xenia are the same way. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, but that's my experience, and it likes direct high flow. So like
Okay.
not just in the path of flow where it's getting a little breeze, it wants to be woo, I mean, it wants to be. So, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But if you can, I'd be curious if you come back in 2 weeks and are like, oh my God, it's all over my tank now because I put it.
Yeah. I can try. That would also be an experiment for the Kenya tree that is also attached to that rock.
Yeah.
That one, like the Kenya tree, I actually can't take off that rock. So we'll see. I can try. I don't know if I'll be able to get a shelf, but I will try to put it at least like closer.
Yeah. Closer in the direct flow is the thing. And I don't mean like you could use anything that you could attach to one of those little suction cups that you can stick on the side of the tank, stick the rock on it. It's right in the flow, easy peasy. But I get it. Just try for me. Cause I want to know. I want to be like, Ray, it's the flow. I told you so. I never get to say I told you so to Ray, so I need to be able to.
Well, see, I had flow in all my tanks because I'm partial to softies.
Yes.
Like elegance corals.
Yeah, oh my God.
So I love to see the motion of the corals all the time with the water flow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you like LPS, Ray? In the coral tanks, not Seahorse.
that's LPS, yeah. The SPS didn't
like
interest
all
me.
of them.
The SPS was colorful, but it wasn't like it didn't move, didn't do anything.
Like active, yeah.
I am totally with you. Like I have really gorgeous in my reef tank, not Seahorses, guys, but in my reef tank, I would have these gorgeous, colorful SPS, but they're just there and they grow and they make, they're pretty, but oh my God, you get those flowing, gorgeous LPS, and it's just like, yeah, that's my heart. I love LPS too. You said elegance coral. There's another one that's very similar. Like I loved all the, I just loved all the LPS. Who's here?
Can you share that?
Oh, you're sharing something. Sorry. I'm like, who's here? All right. Go ahead, Ray.
That's what I like.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
pretty.
And what are these all softies? No.
Yes. Well, other than the hydnophora, that greenish colored one there, that's a hydnophora, but I don't think it's an SPS either. And my mind isn't getting around it now. It's in a class of corals that wasn't SPS, but it's definitely not an LPS.
Like the bubble coral? No.
Yeah, there's green bubble and regular bubble, elegance coral back there, hammer corals.
Torches. You didn't have torches?
Yeah, I made a lot of money off torch corals. They grow like a weed.
Oh my God. Torch corals are my favorite. Oh God, they're so pretty. But
No good for seahorses though.
no, right. Yeah, we're sitting here talking this trash. And
I know stuff that doesn't live with
if you're
seahorses.
starting a seahorse tank, you don't want any of that because. So I'm going to tell you my reasons, then Ray can tell you his. So if you're talking about SPS, honestly, seriously, I worry more about the coral. You spend $50, $100, $200 on a little teeny frag of an SPS coral, and what do you think the seahorse is going to do?
Sit on it.
And sit on it and kill it. I mean, like, you're going to kill your expensive SPS by putting in a seahorse tank. Then if you
a lot of SPS can't handle the dirty water that seahorses create.
Right. They can't handle the dirty water. They need higher temperatures. Like there's just too many things that don't jive with SPS and seahorses. LPS, almost the same situation. They need higher temperatures. And if you have anything that can sting, like many torches can sting, sun coral, anything like that, they can sting. You can't have it with seahorses. So, Ray, did you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I guess I covered it for him. But you can, as Sophie's shown us behind her, do soft coral, gorgonians, macros. You can make a gorgeous seahorse tank if that's what you want to do. Or you can make a gorgeous seahorse tank like Holly's. And you don't have to take care of anything, right? You just you put what you want and it's pretty, right? Depends on what you're after. But you do have to always consider lighting, temperature, and equatability. That's not even a word. How they'll get along with each other. If they'll sting each other or hurt each other, kind of thing. All right. Anything else from you, Miss Sophie?
No, I was just trying to find a picture of my Kenya tree at the start versus now, but I don't think I had some pictures.
Man, listen.
Maybe show us next week. Get them ready and then share next week.
And I was gonna say, you guys, please never ask me for pictures live because I'm telling you now.
I know I have so many. I know
take pictures now too. I have 60,000 pictures on my phone.
Right.
I can't find anything.
I hear that.
It's like, why do I even have pictures? Like my girls. Personal note, real quick. My girls are graduating. I have 18-year-old twin daughters. I know I don't look that old, right, guys? Let me get a facelift here. But I'm just saying, like, I wanted to make some really cool things showing their, childhood to adult. I can't find the pictures because I've got too many seahorses and
I hear that. Happens to me all the time.
But Ray, are your pictures overwhelming?
Pardon me?
Oh, I don't care about any of it. Nothing. All right. Tell age of son and it will be more in perspective. What do you mean?
Well, your son's
the age of your son.
Oh, are you trying to make me look older? Okay, I have a 20.
I'm just explaining.
Oh.
You were complaining about 18-year-olds. Well, when you got a son that's older than that, then why didn't you complain about that?
Well, because he leaves me alone now.
My youngest grandkids are 26.
Oh. I'm ready for grandbabies. I miss babies, but I don't want to have to take care of them. Like I want to take care of them for a few
Spoil them and send them home.
Right.
You want to be a grandma. I wouldn't mind being a grandma, but I never wanted to be a mom.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to get there.
I don't want to be a seahorse mommy, but the seahorses probably know I'm not equipped to be a mommy at this moment. Probably same with you, Sophie. Yeah. We're just too busy right now. Once we get our lives in check, they're going to be like, here's some fry.
I found, this used to be my Kenya tree.
Okay.
This is what it looked like.
Hang on, show it again. I made you big.
Hold on.
Sorry.
This is what that tiny little tree there is what it used to look like. And then, hold on. Let me find a picture of it now. I have way too many pictures.
I know, right?
That's why I moved them onto the computer.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting to have... hold on. I can't see it. Here. This is what it looks like.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yes.
They grow as fast as a coral does in the leathers.
you can't see it. It's like, no, it's coming from my
Well,
phone.
Yeah, it's hard on the computer and the phone. Mine does that too.
Yeah. Anyways, it's that like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you gotta
can't
tilt
see
it the right
But
way.
it's that like huge
Hey.
bush.
yes, huge bush.
So that's the one that I've had. That's the one that I've had the most luck with, because they don't like it. Doesn't really care when the seahorses
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the thing with like, I mean, like, to be real, Gorgonians, they do care. They'll shut their polyps and stuff. But I don't know why the seahorses don't damage them. Like,
Yeah.
at least in my experience, let's put it that way. I literally have a Gorgonia in that tank right now. And I had multiple in the 65. And it's just, I've got a video of a pregnant male. I'll try to find it. Where he is hitched to the Gorgonian. The female's hitched on another branch, and she's going like this, trying to knot him up. And he's like, I'm already pregnant, honey. Can't do it yet. And they're both on the Gorgonian. And the Gorgonian is literally, you can tell it's pissed off that they're hitched. You know, like the polyps are shrunken in the spot where they're hitched, but everywhere else is full. I'm not a scientist. Maybe Chris Carey could help us with that. I don't know. But I'm just telling you, Gorgonians don't seem to care. The macros absolutely don't care. And most softies don't care. Like it just works with seahorses. So lots of pretty things you can have in a seahorse tank. And, you know, if you're not talking fry, they're very easy to just keep and have a tank.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Mama's got to be at work at 4 a.m. Yay! And I'm sure Sophie has something going on tomorrow because she's so active. But yes, keep us informed, Chris. I do see what you're saying and want to talk to you on the side. But for tonight, guys, I am going to call it. And I meant to do it 40 minutes ago, but I just love talking to you so much. But for tonight, let's call it. And we'll be back next week. Again, if you guys want special guests or certain topics, all you got to do is post something in the group, let us know, or whatnot. You know, we're more than happy to talk on specific topics. If you don't ask us, we're going to just chat. Wine Wednesday. Yay. All right. And, you know, there will be weeks where Sophie's doing this, but not while she's got dance. All right. So for tonight, let's say Happy Wine Wednesday, guys. And we will be back next week. Happy Wine Wednesday. Have a great night, great week. See you next